greetings, one and all, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Sister Friends podcast. It's a pleasure to have your presence with us today, and I am your co-host Sam, and I'm here with the beautiful Jam and the fabulous Lone.
Fabulous in the house.
Hello, ladies.
Hello.
I feel like I haven't seen you. I feel like I haven't seen you guys in so long, and it's such a pleasure to see your faces.
I know. This is what really happened when you let loose.
When you let loose, yes. Anyway, today's episode is one that's special to me. It's a sensitive topic for me, and it's centered around vulnerability. So today, I would like us to open ourselves up and really be honest with ourselves and with our listeners, and really think about what it means for us to be vulnerable.
Lo, what do you know?
I can do it.
This is a tough one, Lo. I hear you. What it means to be vulnerable, if we are in fact vulnerable in our own lives, what we can gain from being vulnerable. And I say this is a tough one for me, especially because as I've said before in this podcast, and I've said to you guys numerous times, when I turned 40, I promised myself to be more authentic, to present myself more authentically, not just personally in for myself, but and how I present myself to others, right? And I think a great deal of that comes with being vulnerable, right? And it's scary and sometimes shameful,
right?
And hard. And I think that it's even harder for women because we have so much stereotypes that we have to beat. So often as women, I feel like we have to wear a mask, right? So that we can succeed at work, so we can get leadership positions, so we could be taken seriously if we're even buying a car. So it's harder for us to be vulnerable. We've learned to switch back and forth, And I really think about that a lot, about what being vulnerable can do, and the pros and the cons, right? So my first question for you ladies is, do you think you could be more vulnerable in your own lives? And I mean, whether it be career, whether it be relationships, whether it be just to yourself, be more honest to yourself and more vulnerable to yourself, whether it could be about your physical self. And I think about sometimes the clothes that we wear, we're so shameful. Could I be more vulnerable with some of the things we wear? So I'll start with you, Lo.
Well, let me tell you something right off the bat. Remember this little kid? I think he was on the Ellen show. Let me see if I can find it real quick. And so every time I think of being vulnerability, things like that, I think of this kid, and let me see if I can find it. It's right here. Remember him?
Oh, the Jamaican kid in New York.
No.
Right?
Yeah, he still actually goes viral.
Right.
Yeah.
So for me, I think no weakness. And of course, a lot of what we do now stems from childhood, where for my mother was sick, but she showed no weakness. So for me, being raised in that, I don't show vulnerability. I really don't, because I associate it with weakness, which it isn't. But for me, right? But for me, if you're going to show vulnerability, for me, it's like you're showing weakness. Come on, stop. Put on that mask. Whether or not you're not feeling that strength, whether or not you're scared, you can't show it. And I don't. So whether or not I'm in a situation where it could be the most uncomfortable situation out there, or I could not want to do it or not be happy or really, really annoyed at someone right now, or I want to show them that part of me, like, you're going through something, I can relate to it, but then you don't want to show that weakness. Again, I'm saying in my head, I'm interchanging vulnerability with weakness, and it isn't. So I think right off the bat, we have to rewire that concept that being vulnerable is showing weakness.
Here. I applaud that.
Right?
For me, I don't associate it with weakness. For me, I associate it with trust. So if I'm going to be vulnerable with you, I have to trust you. So when I meet you for the first time, or if I know you for a few years, you're not going to know the real me unless I really trust you to be vulnerable with you. I think the only person that really, really knows me is probably you guys and my partner. Nobody else. So it's more a matter of if I can be, myself around you, like fully myself around you. Mm-hmm. Because when I meet you for the first time, when people that know me, I'm very quiet when you just meet me. But God help you if we get close. The Lego beast. So once you get to know me, then it's a different story. But I don't show that to everybody. So everybody thinks, oh, Jamila is so quiet when they just meet me. But no.
Talk about you, Jen.
When they just meet me, they say, oh, are you a Christian? That's the first question people always ask me, are you a Christian? Like, no. So because I'm quiet, nothing is wrong with that. But as I said, vulnerability, for me to show myself truthfully, I have to trust you. So it's a matter of trust for me. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to be vulnerable with anybody or, everybody I meet.
Well, let me ask you this, Jam. Are you vulnerable with yourself?
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I'm very honest with myself. And there are things that, I want to change and I see I need to change. And I have to work on myself. I'm not what you call it, living under false pretenses. I know what I need to feel. Yeah, I know who I am and what I don't like about myself and what I need to fix.
Yeah.
So I am vulnerable with myself. But as I said, with other people, I have to trust you first and get to know you. Even some people that know me for years, they don't know the real me.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't think.
For me, I'll answer the question for myself. I do think that I have slowly but surely become more vulnerable in certain spaces, and in spaces where I 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I would never have thought of being vulnerable. I recently became part of a group of women. Professional women who are all in the same field as me. I think I may have told you guys about this. I'm not sure. Right. Who are all in the same field as me, and they come from all different institutions. And I found myself, it's a group of women who help to empower other women in the field to grow in leadership and just to grow within the career. And I find myself opening up and being vulnerable in that space. These are women I didn't know. Right?
Wow.
Some of them I work with, some of them I don't. But I found myself being vulnerable without even thinking about it. But I will say this, woman to woman, I see that I'm not the only one who's been vulnerable in that space, but I do see how it has helped other women. Because so many women, one particular woman who's a wonderful lady, she gave her story about, how it was so hard for her as a woman to get a PhD in her field and whatever. She said, Sam, I see you around the office all the time. I would never have thought that you had, you thought this way, or you had confidence issues, or you had imposter syndrome, or anything like that. But being vulnerable allowed another woman to share her story and another woman to share her story, you know, and I was able to be vulnerable because another woman was vulnerable, you know what I mean? So it ends up, it can be a beautiful thing, you know what I mean? And it's a risk, right? So that's the thing, because it can be, as women, it can be used against us so easily.
Exactly. Yeah. It really is a big risk that we take, because when you, and let's picture it in a work environment where you're among your peers, you want to be comfortable, you want to be relaxed, and then you share, you know, everyone is sharing, group setting, and then you share that part of you, as Jam said, you trust. And then 2 weeks later, that's used against you. And that is the fear. That is the fear where I probably interchange to say, if I show them my weakness, it will be used against me.
Yeah. So the junker them at work, them just want to learn the weaknesses, so them kind of use it.
And it's like they pounce, right? They pounce.
Yeah, yep. I will say this though. I will say I felt more comfortable being vulnerable. And this is just a workspace, but I could speak to other instances. But I felt more comfortable because I feel like my confidence in self has grown, and I'm a work in progress. 40 something year old Sam is a work in progress. I will admit that's, but I am getting to that point where I feel like what I've been through, it's okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, it's okay. So if I speak on it and somebody wants to use it against me, then, you know, I'll deal with that if that comes up. But I feel like it's healing for me. I feel like it's healing for me to speak it out loud sometimes. I haven't gotten to the stage, I guess, you know, being honest, I haven't gotten nearly to the stage that I would like to be at. But this morning I shared something super vulnerable with you guys, and you guys have known me for so many years.
Right.
And you never knew that. And that was extreme vulnerability for me. Of course. And saying it out, I had blocked that shit out for so long. You know what I mean? And just to be open and vulnerable with our audience, I spoke about my issues with postpartum depression. Right. And I blocked that out. Unhealthy.
Yeah.
Unhealthy. But speaking to you guys about it made me think about it all day again. And I felt like, you know what? Shit, I came a far way out of that. You know what I mean?
Right. It's seeing your growth. Seeing your growth from where you were to where you are. But for me, I still showing vulnerability, even in relationships.
Yeah.
She's good. She's going to be good.
I love you, Jam.
It's just even in a relationship, showing that vulnerability, I can count on one hand. I can probably count on less than the full hand. But anywho, you can count on one hand. I can count on one hand who I can show my vulnerabilities to, or who I've shown my vulnerabilities to. Yep. Because you don't want to be that party in the relationship where they feel like a crutch. They have to crutch you. And I've seen where I've had instances where a friend of mine in a relationship with someone, and then the partner shared something and the other person couldn't handle it. And the relationship frazzled somewhat, they went in different directions.
Wow. Isn't that a good thing, though, no?
No, not to me. It isn't, because it was a good relationship.
But if they couldn't handle the truth, maybe they just weren't that person wasn't meant for that person.
Right.
Yes and no, because to me, how my interpretation, like I put myself in that shoe. I wouldn't have shared it because you're showing your vulnerable side. You're showing your weakness, quote unquote. And a lot of people can't handle that. I think it was last week, I was like in my feelings because of some men point of view about not dating strippers. So why would I share my past, my vulnerability, my vulnerable side?
You were a stripper?
No, I wasn't a stripper. Not for the public.
Not that there be anything wrong. If you
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
That would be
listen, those girls
are
getting their stacks. Let me tell you. Anyway, what? No, but I was just saying, like, people were saying, "Oh, they would never marry a stripper," or people. You just things like that. People aren't ready for it. And to me, it's like, but if I shared my past and it's my past, and you're in love with me now, what's the difference? But it's for reasons like that why people don't show that side of them.
Well, let me ask you a question. This is a really good point that you're bringing up and a good example, right? If you had, there's nothing to be ashamed of in your past, right?
Right. It's your past.
That's the thing. We don't share our vulnerabilities. We don't make ourselves vulnerable because we carry shame of the things that we could be vulnerable
because
about.
We're made to feel ashamed.
You have no reason to feel ashamed of your past. And if someone can't handle that, I feel like, I feel like in personal relationships, it's probably even more, way more important to be vulnerable than in your professional relationships.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
I do feel that way. I will speak that, and I will say that the best romantic relationship I've ever had was with someone who I was 100% vulnerable with, and accepted for it. Right.
I accepted.
I have a thing that I do where I test incrementally how much of my vulnerability you can accept. If somebody can't accept it, then I'm tired of not being myself. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Yeah. I feel tired of not being myself, and I would want my partner to be vulnerable to me too.
No, don't tell me everything.
Why not, Lo?
No. Don't tell me everything. I'm okay with that. I'm perfectly okay with that. I'm okay with you not telling me everything because I don't know how much I can handle and vice versa. So for me, it's like a lot of people tell me everything. We're in this together. We're going to get through. There's nothing that you can do will shock me. Well, you know what? There's probably something that may shock you that you just can't handle because you're not at that maturity level to handle it. I've accepted me. I've accepted my past, my upbringing, the decisions I've made, the things I've done, the experiences I've had. It has made me who I am today, and I'm comfortable in my skin. I'm one of those people that I'm fully comfortable. I have regrets somewhat, but it's because I made the decision with the information I had then. It's just as our parents, they made decision for us based on what the knowledge they had then. They did what they could with what they had. And I've accepted that. But not everyone is at the same level that you're at. And that's where, as you say, Sam, you have to do it. You have to test it. You have to do it in increments.
Yeah.
Just to see how much they can handle. But sometimes their reaction can turn you off.
No, it can. Absolutely. And in a personal relationship, that's your heart, right? And that's a lot that you have to hold on to and that you have to protect. So it's easier to do it in increments. But I have found that a relationship that I personally can be vulnerable in and allow for vulnerability to be shown to me has been the best relationship I've been in. For me.
So then if what does it say about the person you're with if you can't be 100% vulnerable with them? Or if you feel you cannot be vulnerable with them?
Or what does it say about maybe not just the person, the relationship,
yourself,
or the relationship itself?
It says a lot. It's because some people just can't handle it. That's just how I see it. They can't handle it. So maybe you're protecting them. Maybe you're protecting yourself.
Okay.
Right? Is it, maybe it's not fair to the relationship. Someone is probably in denial. Maybe not. Who knows?
Is that healthy though?
I don't know.
Is it worth it to take the time to find a relationship, to leave that relationship, take the time to find a relationship that you can be vulnerable both ways?
Well, can we insert in the video right now that little old woman on the bench like a skeleton? the one waiting for that perfect relationship.
I think this is why women end up falling in love with other women.
Oh my God. No.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. But yeah. No, the perfect relationship does not exist. Absolutely not.
No, you have to work at it.
You have to work.
If you really want it to last, you have to work at it. If you meet someone and you're with them for a period of time and you can't be yourself with that person, or you can't be your authentic self, I feel like that's a waste of time to me.
It makes the relationship
been there and
harder.
It was a waste of time, John.
I feel like a big waste of time.
It makes the relationship harder. It does.
Yeah, because it's like what you're hiding things, or you have to be a certain way. You have to be walking on eggshells around that person. Or you have
because you're trying
be
to
a certain way.
I had a very interesting conversation with someone earlier, and it was about relationships and interactions with wives and husbands, and trying to be yourself isn't what that partner can handle. And it was around, how do you navigate that? You don't want to break up. You're committed. You're together. But it's just trying to, as I say, navigate so that that person feels love in their love language, but trying to also please yourself. It's like trying to navigate Flatbridge before the stoplight.
God have mercy.
So I think you confuse me.
So you're in a relationship.
I'm confused though. Because what did the person fall in love with? Is a complete facade you're going to carry on for the rest of your life?
Probably.
No, don't deal with that. That's too tired. Mm-mm.
Right. Sam, I can't hear you, baby.
That would be exhausting. Take time to work it.
Can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you now, baby. Go ahead.
That reminds me of that movie with Sanaa Lathan. I love me some Sanaa Lathan.
I know, right?
The movie with Napoli Eva.
Exactly. Yes.
That reminds me of that. It's just like, woman who don't want
that's exhausting.
The bed with the bonnet. Exactly. Exactly, Jan.
No,
exactly.
But what do you do when you're committed, you're together, and if you're your real self, it makes the other person completely, I wouldn't say unhappy, but just anxious, just scared.
Shouldn't you have been that way when you're dating and getting to know each other?
Let me tell you, a lot of people aren't.
A lot of people don't do that.
More.
Yeah. A lot of people want to just catch the woman or catch the man. And once them hook them, now you're tied to that, as you said, Jam, that facade. And then now you're like, I can't, to me, that's just too much to keep up. I don't have enough time in the day to keep up a facade like that. Right? So, and that's just me. You know what I mean? Some people can't be vulnerable because they're not vulnerable with themselves to start.
Right?
Oh, Lord, everybody's frozen on my screen.
No, we can hear you, Mama.
Oh, okay. Some people are vulnerable with themselves to start, and all of a sudden now 2 years into relation, they're like, damn. You know what I mean? I actually don't like going salsa dancing with him. I hate salsa.
Right. And then insecurities come up.
I want to go to work to some crap music.
Right.
You know?
Insecurities come up. Insecurities come up from that.
No, but I'm saying, shouldn't those things have come out before you get married? Or
not necessarily.
20 years down the line, 30 years.
No, but she's right. Jam is right. They should have. But unfortunately, a lot of people just want to get into a situation. And they get so caught up with being somebody else.
So you don't think about happiness?
They were happy.
How can you be happy in something that is not true?
Good question.
I don't understand that.
It was their truth. It was their truth.
So you meet a man or you meet a woman, right? And let's say the woman, all right, she love, as Samantha says, she doesn't like salsa dancing. The man loves salsa dancing. So you going go salsa dance and make him step up on your toe for how much date, and you don't say, boy, you know, Joe, I really like you, but I can't deal with the salsa dancing.
Because this
is
where
make 2-3 years come down the line.
Because this is where you compromise.
And then that is when you're going to say, boy, no, I'm not going to salsa dancing with you no more. So then how you think the man will feel?
No, because what happened, Jam, this is it. You start out with compromising, right? Well, he likes salsa dancing. This is something I will do for him. And you do it. But then as you grow and grow, you realize, and what happens when I can speak as a woman, you make the sacrifice, you compromise. We're going to put it nicely. We're going to say you compromise. But then as you go into the relationship, when you start asking for someone else to compromise in the relationship, you ask for a sacrifice and it's not reciprocated. That's when women start, at least, speaking for myself, oh, I've been going salsa dancing, this stupid salsa dancing for the last 2 damn years. And I asked for one cricket match and it's a big deal.
So, my question is, are you telling the person it's a compromise, or you just keep quiet and say, all right, me do it for you?
You keep quiet and do it because you've been going on until something happens and you're like, oh.
But then it wouldn't be fair. Yeah, because it wouldn't be fair when you reach a stage of marriage now and you're going to just cut it off, and the poor man will say, but you've been going with me all this time, so what happened all of a sudden?
And that's the reason for the high divorce rate, my friend.
So exactly. So
I will say this,
you need to be honest. Mm-hmm. Be honest up front.
I will say this, Jam, play devil's advocate about what you said. I agree with you. We should rightfully choose happiness and all of that to start with. But I will say you, Jam, have been fortunate enough to be in a long-term relationship. Sometimes what happens is people are tired of being lonely. So they will put on the facade to get into a relationship so they don't have to have lonely nights or lonely vacations, yada, yada, yada. Mm-hmm. It's not that easy for some people. And I will say that. For me, it came easier with you guys know all the hell I've been through. But not everybody's built like I am. Not everybody's built like Lois. And I think that's what may cause a lot of it. You know what I mean? I think that's what may cause a lot of it. Let me ask you a question. What about, when I think about mental illness, right? People who don't open up about a mental illness they may have, or a childhood trauma. Right. And they don't share that vulnerability with their partner. Mm-hmm. That's something that can be so damaging to the partner as well. You know what I mean? I watched a show recently. It's Ray Donovan. And the husband was sexually molested by a priest when he was a child. In 18 years of being with his wife, he never once shared that with his wife. Right. He never once opened himself up and was vulnerable with his wife and told her about the trauma he experienced. What that caused between their marriage was for him to not have, he never had foreplay with his wife in any intimacy. Sex was painful for her. It was, she described it as almost feeling like she was being raped every time they were having sex. And she couldn't understand why. And then 18 years, I think it was 18 or 20 years into their marriage, that's when she found out that trauma had happened because he didn't want to be vulnerable with her.
Right. You know? So are we saying, let's say, when is it okay to be vulnerable? Or when is it expected for you to be vulnerable?
I don't think we should look at it as when it's expected for us to be vulnerable. I think that's our choice when we want to be vulnerable. I think it's wise to be vulnerable in relationships. I think it's wise to be vulnerable with ourselves, and I think it's wise to be vulnerable with our children. And I think it's wise to be vulnerable when you can help somebody from your vulnerability.
And I think you will know too. You will know instinctually if you should be vulnerable with a person in a certain situation. I believe.
So we have associated vulnerability with people we trust? Like,
For me.
for you?
Not for me.
No.
Not for me. But I will say the important thing is to get over the shame.
Okay.
The shame connected with it. We can stop looking at our past or experiences as shameful.
Right.
And I think if we can get past that part, we have more of an open road to be vulnerable. And as Jam said, be our authentic self in the process.
Do you think of as a person like me, who I consider myself a strong Black woman, proud and tall and strong and overweight. But anyway.
And fabulous.
And fabulous. Can I start showing vulnerability? Because I don't think I can.
I think it takes time, right? And I think it's a process. And I think that you have to, like I said, I started this journey of just intentionally wanting to become as myself and be real to myself and real to other people, authentic. So I guess you just kind of have to, if you want to be more vulnerable.
Right.
I think
That's it. Do I want to? I don't think I do.
Because I think that this whole idea of associating a strong Black woman with hiding our vulnerabilities is where the problem starts as well.
Right.
You know what I mean? Not showing weakness. I don't think that's...
Maybe we should do an experiment maybe you should try an experiment to be vulnerable in increments. Start small.
Okay.
So
I do with men.
Pick somebody you want to be vulnerable with and start small. And come back and tell us what happened.
Okay, I'll start with Kalia.
No, that does not count. No, does not count, Lo.
Sure.
I'm sorry. Did we really need to put a disclaimer of 18 and older in this?
I guess.
Wow.
Okay.
No.
Or you know what helps you be more vulnerable to therapy? If you can be vulnerable to a therapist who's paid to keep your secrets, it's a start.
But I don't know. I don't know if I have.
Well, I mean, if you're paying, you'd be more
you better
invested
not
in it. Yeah.
No, it's still hard, girl. It's still so hard for me.
Actually, we get it free at work. So
it was so hard for me to be vulnerable with my therapist, John.
All right, I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try it, and I'm gonna report back.
No, try it. Yes, report back to us.
I will.
Just like I'm happy to report back that I've been enjoying my skincare routine.
All right.
Brianna from our last episode, I've been having a ball with it, and I feel like I'm rewarding myself.
Well, mine was going pretty good, and then I don't know. I got some new set of masks, and it totally ruined my face. I'm gonna start over. But it's great. That we're at that level of maturity where we can discuss a topic like this open, encourage our listeners to, leave a comment, tell us, your views on vulnerability. And, is it a trust issue? Is it showing weakness? Is it just that level of maturity and acceptance? So, here we are, another episode of Sister Friends discussing another fantastic topic, which I see us doing a part 2 of this, where I'm going to do my experiment. I'm going to try and be vulnerable. I will take notes and document it as much as I can. I see us doing a part 2 of this.
Yes, definitely. And what my contribution will be is I'm going to be more vulnerable with my body, not in a sexual nature, listeners.
Okay.
But just as far as in different ways. More to come.
Exactly. Oh, well, thanks for listening again, everyone. It's always a pleasure to, do this for ourselves and our listeners and our friends and family all over the world. Stay tuned for a lot more to come. Remember to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, Sister Friends Podcast. And we're also on Twitter. Have a good day, and we'll see you again soon. Cheers!
Good morning, good evening, and good night.
Bon dia.